We need more supply. We talk about housing being expensive, and that's true in a lot of parts of the country, but we need more housing, but particularly age-friendly housing. What if any apartment or condo, even single-family house cottage you went to, already had some basic elements of universal design incorporated, where you had the slip-resistant tiles, you had the blocking behind the walls for grab bars, it was easy levers, one story ideally. That would just make whatever your location easier for people to be there as long as they may wish. So you're not in a position where your home doesn't love you back.
Hello, and welcome to Not Born Yesterday, a podcast dedicated to older adults and the challenges and joys of aging. I'm Miriam Goodman.
Not Born Yesterday is brought to you by Next Village SF, a local nonprofit providing older adults in the Northeast neighborhood of San Francisco with support to help age in place. I'm Lynn Winter Gross.
Today on Not Born Yesterday, we're talking about choosing the right place to live as we age. Most older adults will tell you they want to age in place, but according to our guests, sometimes that's not the best idea. Aging in place can mean isolation, the neighborhood may be unhealthy or dangerous, doctors and hospitals may not be nearby, community services may be lacking, and other issues may make your current place less desirable. And most surprising, research shows that these negative things will directly affect longevity and happiness. So today we want to talk about how place matters. We all learned a lot about the detrimental effects of living in the wrong place during the pandemic, when so many of us were isolated from family and friends, and so did the housing experts and futurists. They found that if you feel your neighborhood is not safe, for example, you may be less likely to leave your home and connect with neighbors and friends, increasing the risks of social isolation. But if you're aging in the right place, you'll be inspired to engage with your community, stay physically active, and be ready for new adventures.
Ryan Frederick has been studying housing for years. He is the CEO of Here, a consulting and real estate development firm specializing in housing and healthy aging. He believes that the right place is the solution for people who want to live independently for as long as they can. His new book, called Right Place, Right Time, The Ultimate Guide to Choosing a Home for the Second Half of Life, examines place as the key to successful aging. Ryan, welcome to Not Born Yesterday.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
When we talk about aging on this podcast and longevity, most of our guests talk about how to stay healthy, like good eating habits, exercise, finding purpose, social connection, managing our money. But you focus on place, which is so often overlooked in the discussion. How does where we choose to live shape how long we live?
It's not just how long we live, it's also the quality of life that we live. They say kids born today, half of them in the US are expected to live to 100. And so we have this tailwind around longevity, particularly those that are college educated and have some financial resources. But longer isn't necessarily better if your quality of life is compromised. And the reason why I think place is so important is because when you look around the research around longevity, for example, only about 20% of your longevity is linked to your DNA. It's much more associated with having purpose, being socially connected, being physically active, feeling financially secure. And place has a very meaningful indirect way of influencing all those variables. And then directly, of course, your place, it's important it meets your physical, emotional, and psychological needs. One other thing I was going to say too is that when we say place, just for everyone's clarity, I mean not just your four walls. I also mean, what block do you live in? What's your neighborhood? What metropolitan area? Are you urban, rural, suburban? What state, region of the country? What region of the world? All of those things together influence your lived experience. So you might be in a home that's safe to you, a house, but maybe you're in a neighborhood that's not safe or effective at this point in time, like Miriam was saying. So there's levels to how we think about place as well.
So you wouldn't be surprised to know that a lot of people talk about their desire to age in place, to stay into their homes until the bitter end, and maybe even die in their homes. So is it because we like what's familiar and we're reluctant to change, or are there things that we really want to do in your research, that we want to be near our children, or we want to be able to host people for holidays?
Everyone has their own individual circumstances and preferences along the way. And sometimes it's not just your own. You might have a partner that you're also solving for together, or maybe there's other situations, extended family that are involved. So it's not an easy answer to that question. What I would say is that in general, I believe people underestimate the importance of place, back to Lynn's question. And it can be so daunting that the knee-jerk reaction can be, well, I just want to stay where I am, without necessarily thinking through what all the other options are. In the book title, Right Place, Right Time, that title really gets to it, which is there is a calibration that happens over life. It's not just for older adults. It's when we're younger or middle age, where we're whether we realize it or not, there's some calibration we're going through to say, for my needs and preferences today, do they really meet the place I'm in right now? And in situations where there's a miscalibration, to the question earlier, it can really be a detriment to our overall health. So I think aging in place is a very important has a very important role in this, because I do think that's a very good place to start, to say, okay, what if I just want to age in place state? And that might be a certain reality today, and it might be a certain different reality 5 years from now. But if people don't take a moment to appreciate what they're giving up by saying my only option is to age in my current typically single family house in the suburbs or the city, without thinking about that, they may not recognize, oh my gosh, I don't know my neighbors anymore, or I really am not connecting with people socially the way that I need to. Or maybe I felt more comfortable exercising in my neighborhood 5-10 years ago, but now I don't. There's a number of things, like life is always changing. And that's why that calibration is so important.
We work with the Village Movement, and I know they've been taking the villages that we're associated with, taking residents to go, community members to go and visit a lot of different senior centers, senior areas, senior homes. And I think people say, but I'm not ready yet. As if I leave my house, it's practically 1 foot in the grave. And there's a tremendous resistance.
There are certainly circumstances where people, that is not right. They aren't ready. It isn't the right place at the right time. The trick is the situations where it may be for a certain individual, and then having the courage and wisdom to see it as that. Because what can happen, you have situations where there should be a move of some sort to better enhance your life for that life stage, but it doesn't happen when it could have. And then you go down a path where, just following some of the things we've talked about, where there might be social isolation, where there could be fall risk, et cetera. And then what can happen in some of those instances is there's an event that happens, and then you lose the ability to kind of take your time to find the right place. You're in a situation where you have to scramble a bit and do something on a more urgent basis. So I think there are absolutely situations where people aren't ready yet, but then there are some people where they're never going to be ready, because that's not the options out there don't align with what their interests are.
You told us when we spoke before that one of the most important parts of being in the right place is finding your tribe as you age. Could you explain that?
Yeah, we're wired, Miriam, to be drawn to people that have some similarities to us. And so as we're looking for the right place at the right time at different stages of life, we got to be mindful that a place may check off all the physical attributes that we're looking for. It might check off the financial attributes that we're looking for. But if we move to that place and we have a hard time really connecting with the people that are there, it may be our place of residence, but it's not really our home. And one of the probably best illustrations of this right now, in light of some of the polarization of our country, is if you're a blue person where that politics are important to you, and you're more blue, and you find yourself the only person in a community where everyone's very conservative and they care about their politics, that might be hard to really make friendships, and vice versa. So finding your tribe is really significant, and I think it takes some diligence to really make sure that when you do move somewhere, that your tribe exists, or at least it exists in a large enough percentage or number that you will be able to find people there. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to be best friends with everyone, but that there are a few people that you would have a good opportunity to become, truly friends with. That said, I think my biggest concern I see with a lot of people is really twofold. One, particularly people as they get older, where are they finding purpose? And particularly people that are living alone or separate and apart, they may not have these opportunities to be encouraged, to nurture, to find something that's bigger than themselves on a regular basis, which is one of the highest correlators to happiness. And the other one is one we've talked a fair bit about, which is just social connection.
Do you think people should move before they need to? For example, I have friends who say they can't do their stairs anymore, and they're looking for a one floor house. But there are other times when maybe you're going to want someone else to prepare your meals for you. But right now you're doing it fine. Is it a good idea to move before you have to?
There's a lot of different elements, Miriam, of what's kind of quote unquote before. I mean, we could argue someone should have moved before they fell and broke their hip in the bathroom. So some of them have more meaningful events that can be life changing. Some of them are more like preferences, like, do I really want to cook as much? So there's a variety of those circumstances. What I've encouraged people to do is to develop a plan around this. So I've turned my book, Right Place, Right Time, into a workshop and now a course. The idea is I would encourage Miriam for people to say, here's where I am. Here's some options I should be considering. And putting some timetables around some of that research. So I would say, ideally, you have some vision for how you would like your life to unfold, what some of those options are, and that you're not holding too tight around your current place, because there might be a better option there for you. All that being said, I think typically what happens is people do move. The most common situation is people move later than they should have.
So you talk about different alternatives that have been studied, like moving in with your children, moving just near family, downsizing, moving to an age-restricted community, things like that. So how do you suggest people choose between the alternatives?
Well, first of all, I think what happens sometimes is people's views are too narrow. Their view is, it's my current single family house or it's senior living. And when they think senior living, their minds move towards skilled nursing. And if those are the two options, I get it. Like, I'm staying in my single family house. In fact, there's some research on this that suggests that people are more scared of living in skilled nursing than death itself, especially after the pandemic. And so the first step is to recognize there's actually a lot of different options out there. The average American adult moves a dozen times. What can I do to test out an option, learn more about it before making a big decision? Because what can happen sometimes is people sell their house, they make this big move, and then if it's not what they think it is, there can be some pangs to go back to your old life, in some cases justified. But your old life, that house got sold, your stuff got downsized, things you cannot, in some respects, that bridge has been burnt. And I have some stories where people have gone back to the old neighborhood, but it was an expensive thing, costly emotionally, and so on.
A few years ago, I wrote some books about retirement. And when I talk to people who were thinking of moving to be near their grandchildren, one of the issues was your grandchildren are, 3 and 5 now, and they want to be with you all the time. But in 5 years, they've got soccer practice and after school things. And then on the weekends, they want to be with their friends. So you've moved to be with them, but they weren't sure that they want to be with you. And so people really have to take that into consideration.
And then on top of it, that family can move too. And so you might, if you're going down that path, just be mindful that it could be a number of moves along the way. Because if they move, then how do you follow them? And so it's complicated. That's right.
In your book, you talk about an assessment that people should take before they make this move to find the right place at the right time. So how does somebody get to that assessment?
Yeah, exactly. I find, so when I wrote the book, I got a lot of positive feedback in general, but especially about this assessment tool. It was a way to make it real for people. And so to make it more accessible, took that assessment and put it online at the here.life website. So it's HERE.life is where you go there, and you'll see a link for an assessment. In just a couple minutes, you can see to what extent does your current place line up with your physical, emotional, psychological needs. How does it meet your purpose, social connection, physical well-being, and financial well-being? And it's a snapshot in time, but it gives people and offers some suggestions of ways to make your current place better. But that can start the process very quickly for people. Because if it turns out you're in a perfect spot for where you are, awesome. But it also that may not be that way forever. And you also may find that there are some gaps, and there's sometimes it has nothing to do with moving. It's like, okay, I got to be more intentional about staying in touch with my friends. Here's how I can do that. Or maybe there's a way for me to be more cognizant about cultivating purpose. Maybe I should volunteer more for things I care about. But in some cases, it can start a process that says, okay, what would be some other options? And that's why I've elected to create the workshop and course. It's called the Right Place Workshop and Right Place Course.
Do you think there's anything the government or policymakers should be doing to make this whole process easier?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, of course. A few things. We need more supply. We talk about housing being expensive, and that's true in a lot of parts of the country, but we need more housing, but particularly age-friendly housing. What if any apartment or condo, even single-family house cottage you went to, already had some basic elements of universal design incorporated, where you had the slip-resistant tiles, you had the blocking behind the walls for grab bars, it was easy levers, one story ideally. That would just make whatever your location easier for people to be there as long as they may wish. So you're not in a position where your home doesn't love you back. That's one thing. I would also say that to the extent that there can be mechanisms to lower just the cost to build, that can be important as well.
Well, thank you so much for talking about this unusual and important subject with us. Our guest was Ryan Frederick, author of Right Place, Right Time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the conversation.
I'm 88 years old and I'm still driving. I think that I will decide to stop driving when I no longer understand or remember the rules of the road. I still feel very confident driving. As long as I do, I feel I have a couple more years at least.
I'm 90 years old now and I'm still driving. I think I will quit when I notice that I am very uncomfortable driving because my reaction might be not as good as it should be, and I'll recognize that. My kids ask me if I feel I'm safe, and I continue to tell them I am safe, and I drive defensively.
I stopped driving when I was about 78 because it was just when the pandemic was beginning, and we had a new car that I didn't like. I still don't particularly like it. It was bigger, and then I realized I didn't miss it at all. And I'm rather high-strung. I get excited easily, I get nervous easily, and that is not the right profile for a driver in San Francisco these days. There's too much traffic of all kinds, from bikes and scooters and motorcycles and cars and pedestrians and e-bikes, that it's just not for me anymore.
On News You Can Use today, we're talking about driving, specifically the risks of driving as we age. Many of us expected that when we got our licenses as teenagers, we would be behind the wheel forever. Our cars gave us independence when we were young and continue to do so as we age. Now that we're older, it doesn't necessarily mean we need to stop driving. There are no rules about what age is too old. It's a matter of ability, not numbers.
As our parents aged, we may have tried to get them to stop driving because we thought they were too old and the risk was too great. But now that we have added years on ourselves, we don't want our adult children or our friends telling us to stop driving and to give us the same lecture. It's the fact. Older adults are more likely to receive traffic citations and have accidents that younger drivers do. Why is this?
Well, it's because as we age, reflexes change, as do eyesight, hearing, flexibility, and stamina. So how can we be sure we're safe drivers and not putting ourselves and anyone else at risk, yet know when it's time to let someone else take the wheel? Are you getting more dents or more tickets? Do you get confused even when driving in familiar neighborhoods? Is it painful to turn your head and maneuver the steering wheel? If you feel you're still capable of driving and want to keep it that way, here are some proactive steps you can take.
First, it's important to have that annual eye exam and your hearing exam. Keep your medications current. Get enough sleep and exercise to stay physically strong. Next, keep the car serviced on schedule and the front windows clean. Drive defensively and know your limitations. Is it hard for you to see the road at night or when the weather's bad? Are you easily distracted by other drivers or landmarks? Have you had some close calls?
Do you seem to be running red lights, drifting into other lanes, braking too quickly or too slowly, forgetting to use the turn signal, or keeping it on after you've already changed lanes? Adjusting to life without driving can be a challenge and may feel like you've lost your independence. On the other hand, you may find it's a huge relief not to worry about a potential accident causing harm to yourself or others. And with the money you save not paying for car maintenance, repairs, and insurance, you can use your rideshare services and still come out ahead financially. Maybe you can even get some exercise and walk to your destination.
If you live in a rural area where public transportation is not available and rideshare companies are hard to find, you may feel that you still need to keep driving. The good news is that cars have become safer with side airbags, driver assistance technologies like lane keeping assistance, blind spot warnings, cruise control, and automatic emergency braking. These newer technologies help drivers who have slower reflexes or difficulty judging the speed and distance of other cars. But it's important to look at the big picture. Are you a safe driver? Think about it. Will you know when it's the right time to hand over the car keys? And that's our podcast for today. Our thanks go to our guest, Ryan Frederick, author of Right Time, Right Place. You can learn more about Next Village SF at their website, nextvillagesf.org. Our theme music is from Hook Sounds, and Jason Dahlstedt is our engineer. And thank you for listening. We'd love to hear what you like us to discuss and discover. Please contact and like us at notbornyesterdaypodcast.org. Be well, stay strong, and remember, you weren't born yesterday. I'm Lynn Winter Gross.
And I'm Miriam Goodman.